Thanks, Pastor Ryan. Appreciate you leading us through that moment together. My name is Chad, and I get to serve as the lead pastor here, so I'm glad that you are here with us. If I haven't met you, or it's been a while since we've connected, there should be an opportunity, hopefully at the end of the service, back by the info booth there, I'll be able to see you, and maybe we can shake a hand, get to know one another a little bit more. Our sermon series is built on asking this question: what does it look like to build our life on Jesus, more rooted, more connected, more grounded in Jesus? And the question comes from Ephesians 3:17, where Paul prays for this, for the church in Ephesus, the early church, where he says, I pray that you will become more rooted and grounded in the love of Christ. And so he uses this image, this word image, this metaphor, which is in a few places throughout the scriptures, of being rooted and putting down spiritual roots. And there's this image that just as a plant puts its roots down into the soil, and it draws up moisture and nutrients from the soil to feed it, to bring it to flourishing, to bring it to maturity. That is the similar picture, or the same way that a believer begins to build their life on Christ, to put their roots in Jesus, to be grounded on Him. And so today I want to look at becoming more grounded and rooted in Jesus by practicing generosity. Now, I know that you're maybe thinking, oh great, I came to church finally, and now they're talking about money. And my kids yesterday, they said, what are you preaching on? And I said, I'm talking about generosity and finances. And my one daughter, Ava, she said, do you like being that guy? And I said, what do you mean, that guy? You know, like the mega church guy that stands in front of everybody and asks for money. And I'm like, well, I hope it's a little more nuanced than that. But, no, and I don't enjoy that. But that's not really the goal and the point. Of course, we know, don't we, that, the way we approach things of this world, the passing things of this world, the treasures of this world, finances and things like that, it's an area of spiritual discipline. It's an area that Jesus does care about, and He wants to bring under His lordship, and He wants us to think about those things according to Scripture and the truth of who Jesus is and the values of His kingdom. And in the closing words of his letter to the Corinthian church, Paul writes this. He says, do not forget to do good and to share with others, for with such sacrifices, God is pleased. And it's like this closing kind of like commissioning to the church to say, don't forget about one another. Don't forget you're in this together. Make sacrifices for one another. God is pleased when you honor one another, you share one another. And it says this passage on giving and sharing. Way back when we were first launching the house here out of Evangel Church, there was an older retired pastor attending Evangel that volunteered in the church to give pastoral care and hospital visitation and just to look in, especially on our seniors population in the church. And his name was Reuben Schmunk. And some of you may have known Reuben over the years. Every time I saw Reuben, he would stop and chat, and he would want to know what God was up to in the lives of the young people in the church. And I would stop and share testimonies and the things God was doing. And he was always so full of joy to hear those things. And when you saw Reuben, you knew that you were going to have a conversation, and it might take a little bit of time. And it was always a good thing. And I remember stopping by the office on my day off once, and I was with my oldest daughter, Caden, and I don't even remember, I had to pick something up, I don't remember what it was. Like a lot of days, I had important things to do and people to see and places to go. And I stopped by, I remember I went in and I just was like, we're gonna run in real quick. And then on the way out, Reuben was coming in to the office, and we met right in the lobby of the office area. And I thought to myself, probably something similar that I think a lot of people thought when they met with Reuben. Their inside voice was like, uh-oh, this is gonna take some time. And Reuben greeted us with a big smile that let us know that we were the most important people in his life in that moment. And he was genuinely interested in hearing about what was going on in our life and what God was doing. And not only that, but he took time to talk to Caden. And you know, when you're an adult, you have kids, and another adult acknowledges your kids and talks to them, that's so meaningful, isn't it? And so he talked to Caden, and he's like, he finds out that she's in grade 1, you know, and all the struggles of grade 1. And then it came out that it was Caden's birthday. And his smile grew even more, and he said, "It's your birthday? Happy birthday, Caden." And he says, "You are such a precious little girl. God loves you so much." And he reached in his back pocket, he pulled out his giant old man wallet, and he pulled out a crisp $20 bill. And he leaned down and he gave it to her. He said, "Happy birthday, Caden." And she just was like, wow. It's like, I got to come to the church with Dad more often. This is amazing. And that small encounter left something so powerful on our lives and marked our lives. He gave her the $20 bill. He said, "Your dad is going to take you to the toy store so you can pick out something just for you, whatever you want." And that small encounter of pure expression of generosity made such an impact. And I know that Reuben was living off of savings. I know that he spent all of his life in ministry. I know that he didn't have an infinite supply of $20 bills in his wallet to be giving away. And I know that that wasn't the first time that he did something like that, nor was it the last. But it wasn't even so much about the money. It was that Reuben was a generous man that put his roots in Christ. It was how he was generous with the gift of his time and his attention and his genuine affection towards others that made us and so many other people so special. And generosity speaks so powerfully in our culture today, because it is so countercultural to the values and the beliefs of what our world says is important, of what so many people build their lives on. Generosity is totally countercultural to that. And generosity mirrors the heart of God. It mirrors who Jesus is. God was generous in that he gave Jesus. And so I want to share 2 practical ways that generosity helps us put our roots in Jesus. And the first is that generosity breaks the hold, the power of materialism, of selfishness, of thinking about life is just here now. Pastor and author J.D. Greear says this: Jesus talked about money all the time, but not because he needed it. He talked about money all the time because he knew that what we do with our money is the best barometer of how much we delight and trust in God. Most of us are familiar with the phrase, money is the root of all evil, but it's a loose kind of interpretation. It's actually a little bit more direct. That comes from the scriptures, of course, and the actual wording is, it's the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. And some people craving money have wandered from the true faith and pierced themselves with many sorrows. This idea of like you pierce yourself, it's like a wound that slows you down and impacts you and affects your life. It's like it's hurtful to who you are. But it's the love of money that is the root of evil. And craving money always leads us away from God. So God isn't opposed to us having money. It's not even, it's God can bless our finances. We can sow seeds of faith. We can experience God multiplying and blessing our finances and our businesses, to put our trust in him, to put a measure of faith in God. It's not about having money or finances. It's the love of money. It's the pursuit of money. It's making that the focus of our life. In fact, as scripture says, it's craving money that leads us away from Jesus. And so there's a great phrase that says, master your money or your money will master you. Which is why Jesus said, no one can serve 2 masters, for you will hate one and love the other. You will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and be enslaved to money, to crave money. So God doesn't need your money. I'll say it again. God doesn't need your money, but he wants your heart. He wants you to surrender your life, to put your trust in him, to declare you believe in him, that the roots of your life, making him the source of your life. It's like putting your faith and your trust in Jesus, not into the systems and the values and the cultural norms of this world. Practicing generosity is one of the ways you show you trust God more than the systems and values of this world. And generosity is God's antidote to materialism. So one of the best ways that you can be free from the control and worry of money and finances is to not hold it too tightly, and to be willing to share, to be willing to give, to be willing to contribute and give some back to the work of God. Another way that we can put roots into Jesus as we practice generosity is to understand that generosity fuels the mission of the church. We can't be here, we can't be who we are, we can't do what we do without the generosity of God's people. And one of the things I'm most proud about in our church is how every time there's an opportunity or a need, our church responds and great things happen. And at a generosity level, you guys always seem to come through. And sometimes there are things that come up. They're not budgeted, they're not planned for, they're in need. It's like there's a response. And one of the greatest joys that I have is the ability to be able to find myself in a conversation or to find a need and to say, you know what, I think we can help. I think the church we can do something. Many of you will know that we have a next-gen pastoral intern who's taking his Bible college named Daniel. And he's making a really great positive impact on our youth and our young adults and really contributing well to our ministry. Well, Daniel is here alone on a student visa as he gets his pastoral ministry degree. And his family, his parents, are back in Korea. Daniel hasn't seen his family in over 3 years. And he's here all on his own. He can only work limited hours on his visa, on his student visa. And so his finances are extremely tight. In late August, I shared how his car had been continually breaking down. And even the mechanics, they said, don't fix this thing anymore. It's not worth it. Like, don't put your money into it anymore. And when I shared this story in August, because when I heard that Daniel, that his car was in such rough shape, I thought, you know what, we can do something about this. And this is an opportunity that we could help him. He's all on his own. This is a way that we can help him be seen and encouraged and provide for him. And so I shared that in church on a Sunday morning, just kind of an announcement. I shared how he had this old piece of junk car that needed to go to the junkyard, and it was like and after the service, somebody said, we gave Daniel that car. So I was like, oh, okay. Well, thank you for your generosity. But they knew it was an old junk car. It was just kind of a funny moment. It was like, you got to be careful what you say as a pastor. You never know what the whole story is. But I shared, I'm like, this we can't keep fix this car. It's breaking down on the bridge in the middle of August. Like, how fun is that? And we just got to help him. It took about a month, maybe a month and a half. But there were 3 dads who got together in the church. And they said, you know what, we'll help. And they got together, like their $5,000 or whatever it was. And they found him a really great, used, reliable car. And they were able to get and got the insurance covered for a year, and it had like good tires on it, and it just didn't need anything, and they were able to get it to Daniel. I think that's great, yeah. And it's a testimony of working together and accomplishing something, and it's a testimony of how generosity works and how it fuels the mission of the church and how God is blessed. And God appreciates the sacrifice and when we get together to do things. We always do a special community project for Christmas. And in years past, our church has supported the Gospel Mission and Teen Challenge. Last year, we did Shoe Boxes for Love, where we packed up the shoe boxes with supplies, and they got sent to Samaritan's Purse, and they were distributed all across the globe. And last year, we sent about 200 shoe boxes, which was a really great thing. But rather than buying items again this year, we had the idea maybe we could do help some kids that are in need somewhere, that and we would get them a backpack that would be filled full of supplies, school supplies, maybe hygiene products and toys, help resource and outfit them. And we had the idea to do it this way because rather than buying all the items here where it's pretty expensive, and then packaging everything and then shipping it, there's so much cost and complexity to that. So we thought, let's find out where we can work with an organization that has a need like this, and how can we stand in the gap. And so we partnered with a local ministry outside of Johannesburg in South Africa called Reach Out for Africa. And this is an organization, a ministry that's been a part of our community. Some of us have been on mission trips there and been involved with that. And when we talked to them, they determined that they could buy a backpack locally and purchase all the supplies. They could fill it right to the top with school supplies and toys and all kinds of things that would be really helpful for kids. And that they could do that for 30 Canadian dollars, which is a pretty fantastic deal. So they provided us with the names of 60 kids that they work with so that we could not only give the $30, but we could write a handwritten note with their name, address it to them, and say, this is so-and-so from Canada, from Kelowna. Bless you, we're praying for you, encourage you, keep going, you're loved, you're seen. And the idea was to provide not only the backpack, but a handwritten note that would get to them at Christmas time. And so we shared the vision with the church on the first Sunday. I think it was Thanksgiving Sunday. And after the first 9:15 a.m. service, all 60 backpacks were done. They were gone. We finished. So we called Africa between the 9 and 11 service. And thankfully they picked up, and we got the names of 20 more kids. And so we shared that. And then at this service, by the end of the service, all 20 were done. And so we did it just one more Sunday because there's a time and all the things we have to kind of work on. And so I'm happy to report, I'm proud to say from our church that this Christmas, 115 kids in South Africa are going to get not only a new backpack full of school supplies in time for their beginning of their school year, but they're going to get a handwritten note from somebody in Kelowna, Canada that they don't know, they've never been to and most likely won't be to, saying, we love you, we care for you, we're praying for you, have a good year at school, we're behind you, God bless you, you're a part of his family. I think that's a really good thing. And it's how generosity fuels the mission of the church. It's how we work together. We're a part of God's family. We are in the kingdom of God. We're connected. And together, as Paul says, don't forget to share. Don't forget to be involved. Don't forget to contribute. A few years ago, we had someone ask if we had a larger project that they could give to. They felt the Lord was speaking to them about putting together a larger donation for the church. And they thought, we just thought, is there something that is like you'd want to do? But it's been hard. You haven't had the opportunity because you haven't had enough finances. And we thought about it. We thought, what we needed to get a better shuttle, a newer shuttle. And we've shared this story before. This is not new because our old shuttle, the white one that has our wrap all around it, that it's kind of rusting and that old Ford van, we got donated to the church from Teen Challenge. So that when Teen Challenge is done with their van and they donate it, that it's near the end of life. And so I think it's held together by the wrap. I think that's what keeps it together. And so we used that for a number of years, and then it just was becoming less and less reliable. We knew we got to get something, but how do you get enough money together to buy shuttle and to buy a new one. And we thought, boy, we started to think, oh, it would be so great if we could get one that was high enough that you could stand up and walk right down, and we could be bigger and we could fit more people in it. And so we shared the dream for a newer, larger shuttle. And they made a donation for $40,000, which allowed us to buy the black dually that we have now. And our youth ministry officially calls it the Black Pearl. And so the Black Pearl races around Kelowna multiple times a week. And it carries students back and forth from the university and Tuesday and throughout the week for youth, and Alpha on Wednesday night at the university again, and youth trips and all kinds of things. And it gets used multiple times a week. And we have it because God spoke to a couple in our church. And in an act of generous obedience, they responded by giving money towards that project. Church, your generosity fuels the mission of the church. And the reality is that we are 100% funded from our community. We're 100% funded from your generosity, from our generosity together. And we couldn't be here without your partnership. And so your regular monthly giving allows us to reach Kelowna one life at a time. You heard about how last week on Sunday night we were so full of young adults, and we talk about these things because we don't always see them in our services. You don't always know what does the church do and what are we up to and what's happening, because so much happens not just on Sunday in service. So much happens through our ministry all throughout the week. And so even on Monday, we had so many young adults that were at our student lounge. We had to set up 4 extra tables. We were out of soup by 6 p.m. Our youth on Tuesday nights, we have routinely well over 50 kids that are showing up. Wednesday night, it's full with people who are here sitting around tables, learning about Jesus, asking questions. We have 35 people this coming Saturday going to be together for the Holy Spirit retreat that are a part of Alpha. And Thursday night, over 50 young adults that come together for the Common, which is our midweek young adult gathering. Sunday mornings, our next gen wing next door there is full of kids and youth encountering Jesus. And all of that happens because our church is generous. And so it's an opportunity to say thank you. And you wonder where your giving goes and what it's for. And it's to fuel the mission and the ministry of the church. It's what allows us to be who we are. And God has been so faithful to our church for our whole story. Many of you know that we've been walking out a vision for expansion. And back in the spring of 2022, I shared with our board and staff that I felt God was stirring and calling me that to lead our church into finding a larger building, that we needed to find a way to get to that next level. And that was the growing sense that I felt God was calling me to lead our church forward in. And so we looked at a bunch of places. We even talked to some struggling churches about maybe, moving in and taking over their building and helping them. And nothing came together. In December of 2022, at year-end giving, Angela and I made a year-end donation to our building campaign in faith that God was going to do something. And at the time, we didn't even actually have a building campaign. I just wrote on the envelope, new building. And a donation. And if you go back through our church finances and you track all of the building campaign funds and journal entries, you will find that the first journal entry to our building fund was made that December of 2022, long before we had any option or plan for a bigger building. And sometimes you have to sow seeds of faith. Like sometimes you have to take the step of faith before you can see things happen. And that winter, we began to enter into a new season in our church where we began to see some miracles and some breakthroughs. We began to see God begin to write a story that was so great that only He can get the credit for. Because 3 months later, in March 2023, we received a donation for $1.5 million to purchase the unit we're in now. And now we have less than $950,000 on a mortgage. And our building here is worth about $2.7 million. And that was the first of a significant miracle for us in our community. And 6 months after closing the purchase of this unit, there was a shuffling in the neighborhood businesses. And for the first time after 16 years of no changes in the strata out here, we found out that the machine shop across the parking lot, they were in the big front building there, that they were moving out. And they approached us, and they approached Allen's Hose and All next door as we were owners and working together and knew one another, were in a relationship. They said, one of you want to take over the space before we go to the hassle of listing it publicly and all of that and losing money on commissions? And do one of you want to expand, or any of you wanting to move? And both of us said, yes, we would love to expand. That sounds amazing. And I knew that their barbed wire compound next door at Allen's Hose and All would make a really cool courtyard, and we needed a spot where our kids could play safely and our families and not get run over by cars in the parking lot out there. And I was like, I wanted Allen's. And besides that, like the way the buildings are laid out, it would just be better for us. And because we're here, if we took over next door, we could develop it and start using it at a pace, but still meet here. And it just seemed to make way more sense. And so we had the meeting, and it was decided that Allen's Hose and All would move over there, take over that unit, which then made this unit available to us, which a few months earlier, 6 months earlier, it wasn't even a thing. We didn't even know. And God was putting it together. God was making a way. And all of a sudden, the Lord was parting the Red Sea. And we had a path forward. All of a sudden, we began to figure out this is how we can do it. And sometimes you may feel like you don't know what the path forward is. Maybe you feel like, I don't know what the path forward is in my marriage, or with my kids, or your health, or your finances, or your business, or whatever is going on, or wherever you find yourself, whatever point of struggle or obstacle that you face. And you think like, I don't know, like it's like, I know God's been with me, but like now I'm here, and it's like literally standing maybe at the shore of the Red Sea, and you're like, what am I supposed to do now? And you know what I learned about that? Was that the path God had forward for us was there all along. All that had to happen was the Red Sea just needed to be parted to reveal that path. And to say and to trust and say, God, I don't know how, I don't know where it is, I don't know what it is, but that God has got a path forward for you in every challenge that you have. And it's to say, Lord, would you just reveal it? Would you just show it? Would you begin to make a way? And so we started the process with the city 2 years ago. They required us to apply for changes to our zoning and our parking variance stuff. You know all that. It was quite a journey to walk out. And we met for prayer next door in early October of 2024, just a year ago, next door, before it was our unit, to pray in faith. And to say, God, would you make a way? And would you put it together? And by the end of November, just a year ago now, last year, the city gave us all of the approvals for our zoning and our parking variances. And in December, we were able to present our plans to the city. And they gave us their initial approval with the caveat that, of course, we have to have all the engineer things done, so they had to know that everything would be done proper and to code. And that process began early this year in February. And it wasn't finished up with the engineers until August. And in the end, we discovered that not only did it take longer than we first thought, but it was going to cost more than we had first envisioned, which is so often the case. And we have to bring both sides up to current code and meet all the requirements for all the things. And for public assembly buildings and all the things they need, especially in HVAC and electrical and plumbing and things like that, structural, it added about $800,000 to our budget. And the reality is, it's a big story that only God can get the credit for, that he's leading us in. And so going back to October, November a year ago, not only were we trying to figure out some of these details with the city, but we were trying to figure out if we actually got the space and we took it over, how would we be able to pay for it? Because of course it would come with a significant increase to our operations. And so a year ago in December, we had our first Seed Sunday where we cast the vision to the church. We said, this is what we think God is leading us in. This is what we're preparing for. And we need to be in a place where when the time comes and we get it, that we would have the funds and we would have an increase in our giving. And we invited you as a church to respond. And so many of you responded so well and so graciously. And on April 1st in the spring, just like 7-8 months ago, whatever that was, April 1st, we took over the space next door entirely, and we had enough money in our regular giving every month. We've covered that expense, and the Lord provided, and the Lord made a way. And so thank you, church, for responding. Thank you for fueling the mission of the church. Thank you for being a part of that and for being a part of the story and for seeing how this happens. Now, by the time we took over the space next door, we decided that given the complexity and where we were in the reports and all the engineering and all that stuff, that we weren't ready to do it. We thought we needed to shift to make the space usable, because now we're paying for it and it's ours. And so let's make it as usable and as functional as we can before we step forward with all the other stuff. And so we developed the courtyard for an area for all the kids and families. We upgraded all the life safety stuff so we can meet all the fire codes and occupancy codes, and it's safe to use. We cleaned it up and painted it and did some acoustic treatment. And in September, our kids ministry started meeting in there, and now we've set up offices next door. Our youth is using it multiple times a week. Every day of the week, it's getting used next door, and it's been such a blessing to have and to create extra space for us. And we haven't taken out a building permit yet, and because that comes with another level of cost. All the changes and all the work that we've done in there is things that can be adapted and rolled into the final design. But to take that building permit, then it's a significant cost. So that's where we are right now, is just to pray through and to trust in God and to start now. We know the budget and the plans, and to share with the church now as a year later, Seed Sunday, it's the vision to come up with the funds so that we can get the project finished. And so today we are crossing the Red Sea together on dry land. God is making a way. We maybe aren't all the way. We're halfway through. Maybe we're part way across the Red Sea. And we think there's a path forward. But the water is like, it's pretty scary. But we're trusting in God. That's kind of where we feel we are in the story. And God has provided a way. Every step of the way He's provided. And He is writing a story that only He can take credit for. It's so big, only He can take credit for. And so I want to just share quickly this Reach Kelowna vision, and then we'll get ready to roll. Our church has a vision to be on the leading edge of what God is doing in the Okanagan Valley, and we have a long-term vision to plant other locations and campuses and multiply. But our first goal is to grow and develop and become sustainable here and complete this project. And the heart of our Reach Kelowna building campaign is reaching people with the gospel one life at a time. And we're not inviting people to give to a building. The vision isn't really the building. The vision is the church that we want to become. The vision is to be a church planted here in the city, to take the gospel, to win people to Christ, to reach people, to reach Kelowna one life at a time with the gospel, and to be a sustainable, life-giving church for the future generation, to be a church of tomorrow, today, to be a church that families can come and their kids can be excited and they can grow and they can hear about Jesus, to be a place where we can have our worship artists write their own songs and record them in a studio, to see more young adults come on a Sunday night and get baptized and give their life to the Lord, to see more people come to Alpha and more midweek spiritual rhythms, like all this stuff, to be that's the vision that we're giving towards. And so that's what we're inviting you to. I want to just show you a few of the renderings so you have an idea of kind of what we're looking at, conceptual ideas and pictures and drawings to communicate the goal and the vision that we have. On our exterior, we kind of like the idea of the August Motorsports building, which is really dark and cool. That's kind of what we were thinking for inspiration. But you see the big glassed-in bay door, that's next door. That's like the big bay door next door to us. And of course, that white canopy in that bottom left corner is our side over here that we're in right now. Well, in that courtyard, on the front corner of the building, below those string lights by the garage door, there are some doors. That's the main entrance into the new building, into the new church. That's when you come up on a Sunday morning, you come in through the courtyard and you go in, and you'll end up inside the building behind that big glassed-in overhead bay door. And this is what you would see on the inside. That's right where our coffee shop would be, the main lobby area where our info booth is, where we visit and hang out and connect. In the bottom right corner are the doors that would be to the courtyard where you come in. Straight across on that bottom left would be the doors that come into the auditorium, into this side. That would be at the front entrance where our current door is. And right now there's a storage room there with snow shovels. Well, that will be the doorway that will come in. And if you look down beyond the coffee shop, that's the doors into the next gen wing. You go up the stairs, and there's a lobby area and a laundry area and couches and hangout. That's for all of our midweek hangouts, for our student lounge, where university students come and hang out and do their laundry and have their soup. And there's a walkway you'll see on the left on that top level. Well, that walkway comes around above where the front entrance is. And that will lead into the back area of our auditorium behind our nursery. If you're at that door on the catwalk, looking from the catwalk over, you'll see the coffee shop below, past into that student lounge on the mezzanine level. That's the complete look of that front lobby area. And then if you come through the doors on the bottom by the coffee shop into the auditorium, this is what you would see. Everything would be gone. All the stuff that's here, everything is wiped out and taken away. So all the second floor here, all the stairs, the washrooms, everything is gone. It's all open seating. And that will give us seating for about 475 people. And there's a mezzanine across the back. So instead of the mezzanine coming this way into the building that we have right now, it would actually go all the way across the back. And we'll show you what that would look like here in this next one. That mezzanine all the way across the back. On the bottom right corner, this would be from being on the stage looking to the back of the church here, where we go out into the parking lot. The bottom right corner, that's where our coffee shop is right now. And that will be where the studio is and the AV stuff. Up above those glassed-in rooms, that mezzanine that goes across the back, that's for our nursery, which is 0 to 2, and for our tots, our toddlers, which are 3 and 4. And they're right there and right close. Parents can be in there, can contribute, watch the service, participate in the service. There's a stairway that comes down, right? There's an exit that would go right out to the parking lot, right where our big overhead bay door is right now. That would be converted to some exit doors. And of course, the lobby entrance to the courtyard and the coffee shop is in that left corner there where you can kind of see the doors. And next door in the next gen building, there's another big gathering space in the back part of the building here. And that is where we would have our next gen wing. There's room for about 150 people in there for chairs and tables. We can meet with kids and youth for worship. We can do alpha. We can do spiritual rhythms, workshops, weddings, funerals, community events, outreach events, all kinds of gatherings that can happen in that space. Another area for worship and meeting and being together. If you look just over to the left side of the stage in the next gen wing, that would be where the garage door is right now in the courtyard. That's kind of where you'd come in. This is what you'd see is the stage would be forward, but on the left side is underneath the mezzanine area, there's kids' rooms where they can have breakouts so they can be all together. And then at like lesson time and stuff, they can go into individual breakout rooms and some can stay in the big area. There's also a commercial kitchen with a serving window. That's why we can do alpha and all these things now right there. The kitchen is right there. We can close it off, make the lasagnas and the Caesar salads for after church functions, and then open up the window and we're good to go. And up above that mezzanine area, there would be some office area. There would be another larger meeting room area with some couches and chairs and a big boardroom table. That's where the pre-service prayer time, we get together with our team. That's where we would gather up on that mezzanine side and then come down. There would be a stairway in the back and the door would come through right in this corner. and we would come through after we do our pre-service prayer. Looking from the stage in the next gen towards the back, that glassed-in overhead bay door on the left, that would be right where that garage door sits right now. And then you'll see the other rooms and upstairs. On the upstairs, there's some doors there on that mezzanine level. Those doors would pass through right into that student lounge coffee shop area that's on the other side of the coffee shop where we share it in the lobby. Down below, those doors would open up right into the lobby, into the coffee shop. So when you come in, parents come in through the front door. You can take little ones up the stairs, go around, get them checked in. Your older kids that are 5 and up, they'll come through those doors, and this will be the area that they'll go in. And so there's lots of great options and lots of things that we have in the plans, and we're believing God to do some really, really great things. How much is this going to cost? Well, we began this thing thinking it would be $1.2 million all in. And now that we've got all the code requirements and the assessments and the reports and everything, that number has gone to about $2.2 million. So it's significant. It's a big number. And you think like, well, how are we going to raise $2.2 million? And I think our answer is this, that God has brought us this far, and he will make a way for the rest of the journey, for the rest of the story. That this is a story so big, only God can get the credit for it. And I would think that right now where we are, church, in our journey, is we're no longer standing at the shore of the Red Sea thinking, okay, well now what? Where do we go? What do we do? The path has been cleared. We've stepped onto, we're making our way through kind of dry ground. Maybe it's a little squishy. Maybe it feels a little bit risky. Maybe we look up and there's still some water and there's like, I don't know, are we closer to like turning back or we're not going to turn back, we're just going to keep going. That's where we are in our story. We're not to the other side. We don't have it all done, but we're started. We're on the journey. God has made a way that it didn't exist just a couple of years ago, and he's been so faithful to get us to where we are. Now, I want to just close this with some a really, really great, encouraging good news, is that we are just now at the place where we've completed and we're getting completed all that work next door so it can be functional and it can be usable. And we now know what the budget is. And now we're coming to the church with that next level is to say, can we come up with enough funds to finish the project to completion, to do what we have to do, to meet the commitments for our zoning and our parking variance and all of those things. And we haven't started that official number and campaign and ask until now. But here's the really, really good, encouraging news, is we have already raised through pledges and donations that we've received already, that we have already $800,000 towards the 2.2 million project. Don't you think that's amazing? That we are just now saying, okay, Lord, now we know where we've got to go, and now we know what we've got to do. And the Lord has got us. That's why I say we're stepping on the dragon. We're crossing together. This is the journey God's leading us. We already have $800,000 towards this project in pledges and donations received. And so all we are trying to come up with in this next vision, and I say, that's all, Pastor? That's what you have to say? I say, all we are trying to come up with is 1.4 million together. And it's a big number. And I don't know exactly how it will happen, or where it'll come from. But God's writing a good story, a big story that only he can take credit. He brought us this far, and we trust in him, and that we will be a significant church that God is going to help and use, and we will reach the gospel, we'll reach our city, reach Kelowna with the gospel, one life at a time. And that's the call, and that's the vision. And so with that, I'm going to ask Brian to come. You may be wondering, if maybe you want to give, or how do you make a pledge, or how do you get involved? Can I just invite you and encourage you? We don't do this very often. You may be a part of a church that steps into a project like this maybe once or twice. Can you just give us 5 more minutes if you're able to? Ryan will just share some of the practical steps on how you might get involved and what it is to move forward, and then we'll dismiss just after Ryan. So thanks, Ryan.
Didn't Chad do a great job articulating that? There's a lot there. Thank you, Chad. Yeah, let's give the guy a hand. This has not been 1 week or 2 weeks in the making, but like 10 years. 10 years ago, Chad started a building committee that had a vision for what happens when we run out of space. And here we are. It is so cool to look at those renders and go, imagine all the people flooding into those beautiful pictures, but imagine the beautiful people in those spaces. We are so excited. $2.2 million seems so intimidating, doesn't it? It seems like a lot. It scared me. And I want to just demystify that. How on earth does it cost $2.2 million to reno a building? Well, you got to talk to the engineers, especially those HVAC guys. If that's any of you here, check yourself. No, I'm just kidding. The project started at one spot, and as Chad said, became much more. Our HVAC expenses alone, $875,000 to get enough air movement into these spaces. So I want to break that down for you, but here's what I'll say. I was driving to church this morning and saw a sign. It cost the city of Kelowna $70,000 to build a crosswalk, okay? I talked to a custom home builder this week. He was spending $750,000 on a retaining wall. We're going to do 2.2 to make this whole place functional and up to code. And you might think, why do we have to spend all that money? And the reality is that in 2025, there is building code that exists that says in order to have people in your building, and this many people, you need to have airflow and exits and all the stuff. And we actually can't continue to meet as we are in both spaces as they are without doing some improvements. So here's what the project's going to look like. Oh, it's behind me already. You've been lost in the weeds that whole time. Let me break it down for you. Design and pre-construction, $123,000. We've already spent that money and you've already given it. The courtyard we've developed at $25,000. There's $613,000 in structural and other finishing materials. That mechanical and electrical to do with HVAC and all the electrical systems of $875,000. The construction management at $68,000. Now that's only 3% of our total project cost. And if you know anything about construction management, it costs way more than that to have someone. And so to have someone manage your project, we are so grateful for Stober, who has partnered with us to get us even this far along the way. $367,000 in furnishings, fixtures, and equipment. That's all the stuff to fill the spaces and make them functional. And then, of course, like any good project manager, a contingency fund of 5% or $110,000. Chad already shared the great news, but the reality is we have indeed already raised and pledged $808,000 of that total amount. I think we've got a slide there. That leaves just shy of $1.4 million for us to collect. And we, for the next year, are going to talk about and share updates and explore ways of funding this project. We're having many conversations with donors outside of our church, many conversations with the government trying to figure out if there are grants that we could qualify for to move this project along. But there's also a year, 12 months, for you to consider how might you get involved and what could that look like. We figure we have about 600 people with giving capacity who loosely call the house home. Now, statistically, only about 50% of that 600 will actually give to this project. Now, I'd be happy for you to prove me wrong, but that's what the stats say. If 300 people gave to this project over the course of the next 12 months, here's what that breakdown could look like. There's a giving pyramid behind me. And this is often used in big capital projects to help show how you could fit in and find your place in what God is doing. On the left of this pyramid, there is a bubble, and in that bubble, you'll see the number of partners required. In the middle is the giving level. So how much would each of those partners give? And then on the right-hand side, the total of the cumulative gifts. And in the bubble on the right, the number of gifts or partners we already have at those different levels. So I know we're all looking at the top at $500,000. Man, what a big number. But we have actually had someone come to the table with good assurance that they are in the bag, committed to partner with us for that $500K. We have that $250,000 donation out in the marketplace, but then we've already received another $125,000 from someone connected to our community. Those are big numbers. Let's move to the bottom. We're looking for 120 partners to give less than $500 over the course of 12 months. That's just more than $9 weekly, or the cost of one venti Starbucks with all the modifications. I know some of you are in that category. Just 70 partners at that $500 range, and we believe that after seeing 250 young adults at our service last Sunday night, that there are at least 190 who could find themselves in that less than $500 or $500 range, $36 a month, $9 a week. And so where might you find yourself? Sarah and I are asking ourselves that question for our family. Sarah, could you do one less venti this week, this month? What could we as a family give over and above our regular giving to support what God is doing in our community? If we were to consider the $5,000 mark for a 12-month period, that's just $96 a week. Or for our family of 5, less than 2 trips out to A&W. Man, fast food's getting expensive, isn't it? Here's a different way of looking at it. If all 600 people who we estimate have some capacity to give, gave equally, it would take 600 people giving $2,300 over 12 months, or just $180 monthly, the same price as some of your jacked up cell phone bills. That $2,300 over 12 months from 600 people would make up the entirety of that 1.4 million. And so again, where do you find yourself? I want to echo what Chad's already said, that this is just a building, and a building is just a container. It's just a space to make space to see people meet Jesus. And I am as skeptical as the rest of you. Is this really it? Is this what God, is this where you're leading us? And we want to continue to ask that question as a leadership team and as a community. Is this really where you're leading us? But after last Sunday night getting sandwiched against the garage door, seeing 8 young adults get baptized and commit their life to Jesus, seeing 250 attend that service, I'm thinking that maybe there's something there. For over 14 years, the house has been doing young adult services. We're the longest running, largest young adult ministry in the city of Kelowna. There's been between 100 and 300 young adults almost every single Sunday night for 14 years. That is a legacy of what God is up to. And now those young adults, my friends who started attending 14 years ago, have had kids. And those kids are growing up. And they need space because they're loud and rambunctious. I want to be a part of a church that's ahead of the cycle, making space for the next chapter of the story before we lose the plot, as we've seen happen in many aging churches. My son Jude, who's 7, said to me just last night as we were looking at those renders, which, by the way, you have to check them out on the website. They are just, the projector kind of sucks. They're a little punchier on your computer. Jude said to me last night, he said, "Dad, this is amazing. When's this going to be done? Like a few weeks or?" And I said, "Well, buddy, it's probably going to be 2 or 3 years." And he said, "What? I'll be actually out of kids ministry already by that point." And it hit me that today is the time, now is the time to lean into what God is doing. Not tomorrow, not waiting till we have all the things figured out, but trusting that as he has parted the Red Sea before, he's going to do it again. See, 17 years ago, God parted the Red Sea when Chad had a vision for the house as a young adult ministry to the newly opening University of British Columbia campus. 3 business people believed in that vision and bought this building and leased it back to Evangel Church. And that young adult ministry became the house, and here we are today, asking God again, would you part the Red Sea just one more time? We want to have beautiful, functional spaces to serve people so well and have them encounter the love of Jesus. Chad has always said to me, there are only 2 constants around here: change and Jesus. And boy, has that been true. There is great joy, as Chad shared, in being generous. And we believe that generosity is the way of Jesus. I know from experience in my life, some of my most fulfilled moments have been when I've been giving away guitars, giving away money, inviting people into my home and sharing dinner with them. Not because they were the perfect guests or because I always wanted to have them, but because that's the call of Jesus, to be generous with our time, our talents, and our treasures. I want to take just the last 2 minutes of our service together. You might be going, okay, you got me. How the heck am I supposed to make a pledge to this thing? Well, I'm so glad that you asked. We are going to use Tithely, which is our online giving platform, to give you opportunity to pledge and see what that pledge is going to look like over the course of the next 12 months. You can scan the QR code anywhere around the building and land on the Reach Kelowna website and navigate to this pledge page. Once you're here, you will see a pledge bar, which shows you the total of the campaign, where we're at. And you will see an opportunity to make a pledge. So you're going to hit that button and go, I want to make a pledge. Now today, this morning, I'm feeling pretty generous. So I'm going to say, you know what, over the next year, I'm going to give $10,000. It's because I know that after all this hard work, Chad's going to give me a big fat raise, right? I'm only kidding. Once you do that, you can select how frequently you want to give, whether that's monthly or weekly, whether that's the 1st or the 15th. Then you can select you can provide all of your personal information. Okay, your first and last name, your email. I'm going to use the tech email because I'm feeling less confident about my gift, and I'm maybe going to put it on Tyler's church credit card instead. So tech at the house online. Let's go to the next page. And then you're going to see at the bottom a summary of your pledge. Now, as you do that, you can select whether you want to do any of those given intervals or select to actually just do a custom and not give any money right now. So let's hit create my pledge. I know it's a bit hard to see. The screen's pretty white. And it's going to bring you to this page where it says, would you like to set up automated giving? And you can say yes and enter your payment information. Or you can say no, I'm not ready to automate my giving at this point. In which case, it's going to, again, let's go to the next page, spit out your pledge summary. And that might say, I'm going to give monthly over the course of 12 months, and it's going to look like this much of a payment. And then at the bottom, you can just hit fund later. You don't have to give anything in the moment, but we want you to at least consider what could that look like and see what could that look like. So you're going to hit fund later, and once you've done that, someone from our team at some point is going to follow up with you and say, hey, how is that looking? How are you doing? How can we support you? And how are you doing as a person, as a follower of Jesus? How can we build into your life? So you hit the fund later button, boom, it says, thank you so much. Together we are telling a story so big that only God could get the credit. Now, if you already use Tithely for your automated giving, you will see this information pop up in your Tithely portal. You can manage your pledge, you can cancel your pledge, you can adjust your pledge. Heck, you could even increase your pledge. And so I want you to know that there's lots of flexibility and that the control is in your hands. Now, if you're giving via cash or check or e-transfer, you want to give a larger amount, and we would love to have that conversation with you. You can continue to give those other ways and just write Capital Building Fund or Reach Kelowna as you make those donations, and it will all end up in the same spot. How are we doing? Good. This is it. You've made it. I want you to know that there's no secrets. This is an open book. I would be more than happy, Chad would be more than happy to sit down with you. If you want to know about what the construction looks like and you want to see the detailed Excel spreadsheet with all the items, we'd love to chat about that with you. If you want to know more about how the spaces will function and how we're actually going to leverage them for people to meet Jesus, we would love to sit down with you. If you want to know how you can maybe play a role in this story in another way, we would love to sit down with you. And if you just want someone to pray with you about what's going on in your world as you try to follow Jesus, we would just love to do that with you as well. We as a church are just trying to follow Jesus where he leads. We don't want to go anywhere he's not going. This truly is a story that's so big. If we make it to the other side, only God can get the credit. And so would you, over the next 12 months, prayerfully consider with me how you might participate in radical generosity with your time, with your talents, and of course with your treasure. Let's pray. Lord, thank you for being a generous God, that you gave your life for us when we didn't deserve it, when we didn't earn it, that you gave that gift freely. Would we always look to the cross as our source of hope, our source of inspiration? Would we be people who strive to model our lives after the way of Jesus, and with compassion and love and care and generosity? God, this is a big story. It feels a little bit overwhelming, to be honest. Lord, would we not go anywhere where you are not already going? Would you lead and guide and direct our team? Would you help us know when to hit the gas and help us know when to pump the brakes? Would we be listening to your leading? God, would you speak clearly as we desire to do what you would have our church do? Nothing less and nothing more. I thank you for my friends, and I thank you for this opportunity that we have to be a part of your great cosmic story. Would we be generous, not just now, not just here, but with our friends and with our families, with the people we encounter on the street corner, and everyone in between? Lord Jesus, make us generous people, I pray. In your name. And everyone said, amen. Well, hey, I know it's been, we're on borrowed time. It's been a little longer than normal. Do a couple extra stretches on your way as you get up. As you go, some of our welcome team is going to be handing out some Reach Kelowna cards. These cards have a QR code to the website so you can find out more about the story. Many of your questions will be answered on that website. It also has some prayer points on the back. We would invite you to take this card, put it on your fridge, and pray for us, pray for our church, and pray most of all for the people who will encounter Jesus through the house in the years ahead. As you go with peace, be Jesus to the world around you, a world in desperate need of his hope. Love you guys.